All right, this is the Algebra 1, Unit 2, Lesson 1 video. This lesson is all about the basic language and terminology and kind of basic information you need to start doing algebra. And so I'm going to walk through the different important terms to make sure we kind of have all that stuff understood so that when we actually start doing some algebra, those terms will be familiar to you. So I'm just going to kind of walk through the different terms that are presented to you in lesson 1. You can see them all up here at the top. But I'm going to go and walk through this and give you some examples. There's some reading here at the top that you want to go ahead and look at about the history of algebra, kind of the basic ideas behind it. And then when we get to here, I'm going to walk through some of this material. So within math, we have what we call constant terms or constants. And of course, constants are what you're most familiar with. These are just numbers. 3, -47. These are just examples. 4.83, right? These are all numbers, okay? So constants are just numbers. The value of constants do not change, which is why they're called constants. In algebra, we begin to work with things that are called variables. And so the name to that also indicates a little bit about what it's all about, which is that variables are things that change. Their value is not constant. And a variable can be any kind of symbol or letter, typically X, Y, things like that. But there are other things you'll see every once in a while, other letters. So these would all be examples of variables. But the main difference between the two that you need to understand is that constants value stays the same, variables value changes. And that's kind of what algebra is all about, is looking at these variables and using relationships to figure out what the value of X, for instance, is. So we also need to talk through some other basic terms for some mathematical symbols that you see. Other mathematicals you often see are operators. Operators are symbols that indicate some kind of operation, like plus, minus, division, square root. All of those would be examples of operators. So operators tell us what to do with those numbers. Okay. Also, we have what we call relation symbols. Relation symbols tell us about the relationship between numbers. The relation symbols you most often see are going to be equals, greater than, less than, that kind of thing. So, or greater than or equal to. So these are all going to be examples of relation symbols. So these are the different values. Constants and variables are the different values within math. Whereas operators and relations tell us what to do with those values or how those values are related. Now, when we start working in algebra, you're going to start to see this concept of terms. So a term is any combination of constants and variables. So a term in algebra is like 3x or negative 2a squared b. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to you right now, but those would all be examples of terms. Also, a term could just be a constant by itself or a variable by itself, okay? So a term is any combination. Sorry, I meant to leave that. 7, these would all be terms. Actually make this a little bit more room for us. So it'll be like 3x, negative 2a squared b, just plain y, just plain 7. Those are all terms. any combination of constants and variables. That's a term. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to kind of build. So when we're doing algebra, we'll start to see that we can combine terms. And when I combine terms, they become what's called an expression, or specifically an algebraic expression. So we already know what mathematical expressions are. So let me just bring this down. Mathematical expressions, numerical expressions are just any sort of group of numbers that are being connected by operations. So something like this: 3 plus 7 minus 2 times 8 divided by 3, right? This would be a numerical expression. It's just a bunch of numbers being added, subtracted, multiplied, divided together, all sorts of things I could put in there. So an algebraic expression is going to be a combination of terms in the same way. So an algebraic expression could be something like this: 4xy minus 7 times 3x plus 2. Now, I kind of threw in some other things into this, but the point here is that there are terms. There are terms. There's a term here, 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 here. And all these terms are being combined in some operation. We have subtraction. We have multiplication there. And we have addition here. So algebraic expression is any terms that are being joined together by addition, subtraction, multiplication, any operations. So you see we're combining operators with terms, and we form what's called an algebraic expression. Now, there's one thing we haven't addressed, is what happens when I bring in relation symbols. So what happens when I bring in relation symbols? Well, when I bring in relation symbols, I form what's called an algebraic equation. An algebraic equation is when I actually say that something is equal to something else. 3x plus 7 is 10. Again, we have a group of terms. 3x is a term, 7 is a term, 10 is a term, joined together by operators like plus and relation symbols like equals. So all of this combines together to make an algebraic equation. So it's like you took an algebraic expression and you introduced a relation symbol into the mix, and that's how you get an algebraic equation. So those are the main terms and what they look like, examples of each. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be answering some vocabulary questions, and then at the bottom, match these examples with words. In other words, what is this? Equals. Is it an operator, a constant, expression, a term, a variable, a relation symbol? What is it? Okay. Division. Is it an operator? So do all that. Same thing down here. What are these examples of? So you need to use the notes and the examples I've given you to talk about what kind of expression or equation, or is it a term? What is it in number 10? And that's the end of lesson 1.